It's always nice to look back at where we've come. I really enjoy untangling, trying to decipher the philosophy that goes into phone manufacturing. Apple is a premium label. They're easily the most successful tech company to cross over into being a lifestyle fashion brand. Though for that emotional connection between the logo and expensive products, no company really enjoys leaving money on the table. Sure, it would be great if only the sexiest and wealthiest folks were ever seen sporting iPhones, but the realities of global markets mean different tiers of products for different regions and consumers. No company likes leaving money on the table. The original iPhone SE was a corrective reaction to Apple's first attempt at making a cheap phone. The iPhone 5C was a tactical misstep. It felt like a cynical product, purpose-built to split product lines and maintain the cachet of more expensive iPhones, while clearly identifying which people were buying nice phones and which people were buying poor person phones. Consumers did not want to be separated. If they wanted a cheap iPhone, they were happy to buy an older iPhone. So as we approached the iPhone 6s, Apple was still selling tens of millions of the smaller iPhone 5 form factor. But that longevity can also work against a manufacturer. Software support becomes increasingly difficult with a wider and wider collection of chipsets, especially for a company which is really good at updating core operating system components. What is a manufacturer to do? Apple was still recovering from the 5C backlash. The iPhone 5S still had an audience. So Apple did something pretty savvy. Use the frame and the form factor of an older iPhone and swap in new guts to keep up with more current devices. The iPhone SE was born. Every premium tier manufacturer tries to tout performance and luxury, encourage consumers to buy at the best profit margin tier. Maintaining a healthy profit margin while producing a product nearer the mid-range is an especially precious balancing act. Apple saved costs by recycling the frame and the display while switching to the same internals already in mass production. And what ultimately arrived was a product with surprisingly broad appeal. Consumers who wanted a smaller form factor, customers on an upgrade path where they could use the same cases and accessories, Apple fans looking for top-tier iPhone power at the lowest buy-in price. Those consumer groups not necessarily overlapping. The beauty of this strategy, you create a long-lived gadget built on familiarity and likely increasing the profit margin, refreshing it over several years. From the iPhone 6 to the iPhone 8, iPhone 12 right on the horizon, Apple finds itself in a similar situation. People are still buying the older form factor, but the chipset is too long in the tooth to keep supporting. No company likes leaving money on the table. The new iPhone SE is a refreshing return to the philosophy that worked so well for the original SE. Since the launch of the iPhone 6 Plus, smartphones have been getting significantly larger. Many manufacturers losing sight of that smaller consumer demographic, those folks who might appreciate a premium feeling but smaller communicator phone. And since iPhones age pretty well, there's a built-in audience of folks who will appreciate a phone upgrade that doesn't come with having to re-buy numerous accessories. And there are legacy considerations for people who might not like gestures or Face ID. More than anything else, Apple shows one clear evolutionary advantage over most of the Android competition. Product design does not matter as much as branding. The iPhone SE is destined to be one of the best-selling phones of 2020, and yet we're talking about a casing which has been in operation since the iPhone 6 with only minimal aesthetic refinement. Instead of trying to wow us with a new look every year, or worse, trying to separate consumers into more and less valuable categories, this here is indelibly burned into our brains. This is an iPhone. When gadget enthusiasts act like a fraction of a millimeter bezel difference or an imperceptible change in the curve of a corner matters to consumers, well, that idea is pretty silly. There's absolutely no shame in recycling a good shell. Better yet, this is a huge advantage for reining in costs and better targeting different consumer demographics. The iPhone 12 can come with some design differences, Personally, I hope we get back to the harder-edged and more modern look that I love from the iPhone 5. But it'll be easier to build in those design costs when you're already adding new tech to the R&D costs of that phone. There's going to be a ton of commentary on the iPhone SE 2020. Performance testing, pros and cons, price comparisons. Everyone has an opinion on this device, which means it's already won. Like the original iPhone SE, it joins this conversation in a really big way. Apple acknowledging that there's value and profit to be made in the lower tiers of the smartphone market. There is something to be excited about here. We're getting a growing collection of purpose-built mid-rangers which really aren't compromised. From the Pixel 3a to this new iPhone SE, we have more options to point to where, first and foremost, I think some people will genuinely prefer the experience of the phone, and then they'll be happily surprised by the price. We just know the iPhone SE will be the juggernaut in this price tier. As always, thanks so much for watching, for sharing these videos, and subscribing to the channel. More to come on the iPhone SE with a little more testing and using it as my daily driver. It's gonna be a fun phone to test. So if you would like to help support the production of these conversations, there are some links down below, or you might consider joining the list of names currently scrolling by on your screen. It's a growing collection of fun, like-minded tech pals, a huge resource for me as I'm planning future reviews and editorials. They're just super cool people, so I hope you'll check them out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet, at SomeGadgetGuy on the Twitters and the Twitch, and the Facebooks and the Instagrams. And I will catch you all on the next video.